What's up, YouTube? This is HyperArtonus on ShankatsuXero's channel. I am bringing you an updated deck list for my Mathmech deck profile. This deck is being built in theory, so there's not going to be much side, but it's one I've been testing. I just unfortunately, haven't been able to go to locals. But for any of you Mathmech players out there or interested in what my deck list would be or whatnot, so I'm going to go ahead and give it. Plus, we're in a new format and we're expanding a band anytime soon, so this obviously will change. So that's just something to keep in mind. Alright, so obviously for the first of the Mathmech stuff, we're starting off with one Circular, one Sigma, and one Nabla. Now the reason I'm choosing these ratios, obviously Circular's at 1, so there's not much you can do about it. I know there's a lot of people out there who play 2 Sigma, but honestly, my philosophy is if Sigma gets banished, you don't really care. This deck should be able to OTK fairly quick. All you care about is really trying to... This deck's not really designed much for grinding game, but sometimes you get locked into that. But even then, you run another extenders to make up for that lack of stuff. Plus, with the Bestials, you run the other 2 extenders that make up that difference. You have to run the one Nabla now, unfortunately, due to Circular being 1, or being limited. But even if you hard open Nabla, it's not necessarily a brick. It's a pseudo brick because you can still summon it, activate its effect, tribute it off, and get whatever else you need. Up next, we are running 2 diameter. 2 I think is fine. I've been testing with it. I know some people run 3, and if you want to run 3, you definitely can. It does help with the grinder game, with the grind games. But the fact that diameter can be searched, it's not the biggest deal in the world, so you can play. I think 2 is at the minimum you have to play, but you obviously have to play, you can't play 1. And next, for the reason I only play the 1 Sigma, I am playing 2 Edition, which is that extra extender you need, plus it's a fire, therefore you can't get Bestialed out. And you also running 2 Subtraction. The other extender, this is good for going first or second, so if your opponent interrupts your plays. That's why I prefer running these extenders over the Sigma. Because like I said, you don't really care if Sigma gets banished, but if it does, you have these. Because honestly, usually when I'm going for splash mage plays, if I can get one of these, I go for this because a lot of times people will target your Circular or your Diameter for when you attempt to revive it with a splash mage, but this is immune to it, so they have to crow it or bell instead. And now for the engine that I choose to run as a supplement, and this is the reason I'm running my numbers, I am playing 3 Firewall Defensor. Now, the reason I'm choosing to play the Defensor package over the Spirit package, you can choose either which one you want. I just believe the Firewall Defensor package, despite you do have the chance of running Brick. It allows you to play through hand traps better. It also offers protection for your Cyberus monsters if they try to be destroyed. Because a lot of people don't realize that if a Cyberus monster would be destroyed, you can banish this from your graveyard instead. And I'll show you exactly why in my extra deck, why I'm running that, and that's it on what it's good. I am playing the 1 Firewall Guardian, obviously, because you have to. If you open it, it's not the worst, because you can use it itself to lane climb. It's more if you open up both is when it isn't the best, but you can still play around with it regardless. The chance of you opening up both is still very rare. And then for the best extender in the entire deck, we are playing 3 Parallel Exceed. This card is absolutely cracked. If you open up either Firewall Defensor or Circular or Access Circular plus this, you can end on a pretty insane board. I'm still learning the combo for it, but 2 cards can get you end on a Singularity, a Terahertz, and a Heat Soul with a Super Fact face down. And it's pretty hard for most people to break that board. And then for the last Cyberus monster, we're playing 1 Dogscaper. This card, if it's banished or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it. You can only use its effect once per duel, but you usually send this off with Terahertz to revive back, so it summons itself and then allows you to make a Heat Soul. So just for stronger boards. Next, we were playing, for board breakers, we were playing 1 Archfiend Eccentric and 1 Santa Claus. I choose these because obviously Archfiend Eccentric and Santa Claus are bridges to get to circular or any other monster you need. So that's why I'm playing them, but it's also with Labyrinth and other stuff in the format, having a card like Archfiend Eccentric to possibly out of just a floodgate, a skill drain, or whatever you need. It's I feel like you have to main it. If you don't want to main it, you can side it for sure, but I like it just for that peace of mind. And then Santa Claus helps you out any towers, whether it's Expert Noir, a Rise Heart, or a Barone. And then moving on to the hand traps, at least for the monsters, we are playing triple Ash Blossom, pretty self-explanatory. And then probably the best card of the format, we're also playing 3 Droll and Lockbirds. Droll and Lockbirds is just pretty much good right now, even against this deck. Because this deck does become more susceptible to Droll. But I have one teched in out for that to help prevent it. We are also then running 3 Effect Veiler. And that will round out the monster portion. But we're also running, since we're on the hand traps, we are also running triple Infinite Impermanence. Probably one of my favorite cards. Now, moving on to the spells, we are running triple Cyanide Mining, or circular 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then triple Small World, and then, circular 4, 5, and 5, 6, and 7, or Small World can be used to get you to probably any answer that you need to answer a certain threat. That's why Small World is very good in this deck, regardless whether you're using it for circular or not. And then to end on the rest of it, we've got the 1 Equation, the 1 Superfactorial, and the 1 Called by the Grave. In my opinion, you should be trying to, at minimum, run Called by the Grave this format, especially because of Droll, or any other hand trap specifically. This is a good interruption where you're going first or second, so you can try to push through and get all your combos. Because honestly, even if the thing about this deck is, if the opponent doesn't have Droll, but they Ash the right time and you can either call by it, you can still generally, as long as you have an extender, you can push through some interruptions, and it's what makes this deck extremely viable, this format, in my opinion. Plus, just access code go burr. Alright, for the extra deck, this is where I probably differ from some people, but for the Link ones, we are playing the 1 Almirage, 1 Link Garibo, and the best Link one for Cybers, Link Decoder. This card allows you to have so much extension, and it allows you to set up your boards. Link Garibo is obviously good for any trap, especially for Labyrinth. And then unfortunately this deck does have some dead hands, but if you open up any extender and a hand trap, you can still go full combo. Then for the Link 2s, we are playing 1 Crystal Heart, or G-Golem Crystal Heart, 1 Splash Mage, and 1 Update Jammer. These are the only 2. I know some people like to play 2, and you can play 2 Splash Mage if you want. I just haven't seen the need for it, because at the time with this deck, if they can get through your board, well, they already win. But you should also be able to push through their board with what this deck's capable of. And then for Link 3s, we have 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul and 1 Transcode. Obviously, Heat Soul is the main passive play with this, which is still plenty to do, because you can draw into your hand traps or whatnot. And then Transcode is Transcode. Helps you link climb and then make access code beefy. Speaking of access code, we got the 1 access code. I think 1 is all you need, even though with Cash running around. I've played this deck against Cash. Honestly, there's other ways to deal with them. Cash, if throwing up hand traps at them, they're usually not a problem. As long as you can either Imperm or Veiler a Unicorn, or you just let them do. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been shifted and I just passed and I still won. And then for the Spice, one could say, I am playing the 1 Terahertz, Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, and I'm also playing the 1 Firewall Dragon Singularity. The reason I'm playing these, 1, the Terahertz package itself is just strong enough by its own right, because you can OTK with it. negates any activated effects that your opponent tries to activate during the battle phase. Plus, every time you dump a Cyberse monster, whether it's from the extra deck or your main deck, it keeps getting big and it can attack up to the number of times of the different attributes it has. So that's something to keep in mind. This guy can OTK on his own right, but it's not just access code. That's why you don't really need second access code. And the reason I'm playing the Singularity is because, and this is where I was talking about the Firewall Defensor, if you go full combo, you can easily have a Singularity, a Terahertz, and possibly a Heat Soul, but it's not always the case. But if you have Singularity and Terahertz out, let's say they bait your Save Worm, but they then Lightning Storm, you can banish the Defensor, protect this, but because this was co-linked to the Singularity, Fireball Dragon Singularity will revive this back. So this guy also gives you free extension. It's an interrupt. And you can target up to the number of Link, Synchro, Fusion, and Xyz monsters in your graveyard. So at minimum, at most, this guy will either have 2 to 3 targets, whether on your opponent's graveyard or field, which makes him a very nice tech option, in my opinion. And then up next, we'll have the one to Save Worm, the dump for the Terahertz. You're usually dumping this. If you're going full combo, you'll dump the Dotscaper first to the graveyard to extend, and then usually during your opponent's draw phase, you'll dump this during the draw phase so you could have the spell trap negate on their turn. And then to round out, we're running the 3 Mathmech Xyz, the 2 Alimbertion, and the 1 Inflation. I think this ratio is what you want, because you have to have the second target for Super Factorial if that gets interrupted, which is fine, because it means you just get the free search for the follow-up as long as you can stop your opponent. And then obviously Laplation is Trishula on legs. With an Omni Negate, the card itself is honestly kind of insane. But in terms of flex bots, the 2 flex bots, if you don't want to run, you could run a second Laplation over the Singularity, or you could run a second Splash Mage. There is some flex bots in this deck that give you options of what you want to do. I do have a side deck, however, I'm not necessarily showing that because that's still work in progress, because the format's currently changing, as we've had now 3 or 4 different decks top that no one was really expecting. But anyway, that's all. That is my current deck list for Mathmech. I hope this helps anyone in their venture of trying to make it or whatnot. Obviously, like I said, there are many flex spots with the deck. The deck is still very capable. If you don't respect it, it will stop and OTK you. So, feel free to provide any feedback, and I will catch you in the next one.